they wouldn't take me.
Doesn't quite work that way.
I did it.
I just applied. I might apply just so I can interview.
Okay, we are going to call the meeting of the Coos Bay Urban Renewal to order. And our first item on the agenda is the public comment period. Do we have, I don't see anybody signed up for that? Anybody in the audience that would like to make a public comment for an item that's not on the agenda?
I can make one very, very quickly. I'm not going to come up
You're-
to the podium.
You have to. Come on, Jim.
Mr. Miles, you have did a wonderful job. And we can tell that you have waded through the staff reports, listened to hours and hours and hours of testimony, and tried to make what you felt was the best decision. And this community has a lot of respect for you for doing that. And you probably don't hear it that way, but well done.
Thank you, Jim. I do have one more meeting, so this is not my last
I
meeting.
may not be here for it.
So, Jim, for those who were online, commended Counselor and Agency Commissioner Miles for the dedication to his position and reading all the materials and making the best decision for the citizens of our community.
Yeah, in fact, I think it was the first meeting Rob said, I thought there wasn't going to be a lot to this job. Within I talked him into considering it, and he read a 300-page document wastefully too, I think.
I didn't read the whole thing. I called Joe and I said, Joe, do I have to read this whole thing?
All right, our next item on the agenda is our consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is to consider the reapproval of an improvement program grant for 260 and 265 South Broadway. And that is the Restaurant O and My Yarn Shop, right? Correct.
That is correct. Just for some background, on August 3rd of 2021, this agency approved an improvement grant request for those buildings aforementioned. And then later in May of the next year, the matter came back before the agency for some design changes, which the agency approved. Unfortunately, the grant expired. As your program is currently set up, those grants have a life cycle of 6 months once they're approved, unless extended by mutual consent. Unfortunately, this grant did expire. The city did not receive a request to extend it. In March, in fact, March 21st, the agency heard the matter again, because you did get a request to reapprove or to allow it to extend. The agency at that time chose rather to allow the grant to expire. At your meeting last month on the 4th, you were asked to reconsider that decision. Per your council rules, reconsideration actually requires a recommendation or a motion from a agency member, and it had to be seconded just to put it back on the agenda for reconsideration. I would share with you under those rules, should you make a decision tonight and someone asks you to reconsider it, the only way it can come back before the agency is if there's a unanimous vote to bring it back. So before you tonight is a request to reconsider the formerly approved grant for those 2 locations. You do have a cadre of representatives, the owners of the properties, as well as the architects and the contractor.
So Roger, can you clarify what you meant by bring it back? Is it can we reapprove this tonight with a unanimous vote, or just?
You can reapprove it by a majority vote tonight. But should you choose not to approve it, the only option is either to reapply, or if you were someone was so inclined to try and bring it back, you'd need a unanimous vote just to reconsider it.
Thank you.
Roger, just for clarification, so this expired on November 7th, 2022, correct?
23.
23. And we gave notice, the city gave notice to the business owners on October 4th, and we asked them to respond to us by October 28th if they wanted an extension. And we heard nothing from the representative or the business owners. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that was in 2022, not 2023.
2022, okay.
Yes.
Can I clarify? I did respond that we were still working on it. I sent an email that I copied. Is that correct?
I don't
When
think-
I received that.
You need to come up here and read.
Oh, sorry.
But I don't know
I
of
don't-
anything that was received that Roger's aware of, or at that time, it would have been Debbie earlier, I think, right?
Yeah.
So-
I would have to dig through my emails, but when I received Roger's email.
Can you go ahead and give us your name?
I did, I'm sorry.
Give us your
Oh,
name.
I'm Rika Cruz. I'm one of the co-owners of Restaurant O. And when I received that email, all of the permits and all of the applications have been done through HGE Architects. So I had not filed any paperwork directly. And so when Roger sent that letter saying that it's expired, are you still working on it? I actually did state that we were actually working. Like the contractor was actually, actively working, and we had some delays, obviously, with COVID supplies and things like that. But in terms of formally, again, everything was being done through HGE, and my understanding was that we were moving forward. At least that was my understanding. And that was our intent.
I think that was a letter of January 31st that Roger sent, that you're referencing, that you,
Correct.
that we got another letter from you or email back from you.
So, and that's my question, is it says that on October 4th, notice was sent to the building owners and the project architect that the grant was going to expire on November 7th. But can someone explain why nobody responded?
I'll give a little rundown. My name is Joe Slack. I'm an architect with HG Architects. And like Roger said, we do have what was the term you used? We have a group here to help explain our particular respective roles in the project. So we have Andy Licati, who's a project architect from our office, and the owners are here. Tom Gaiski is the contractor of Tom Gaiski Construction. And so, the project's had its hills and valleys, if you will. Right now, depending on how it goes tonight, the contractor is set to mobilize May 9th. He's doing there's some stucco work that's part of the project. Stucco is a kind of a specialty subcontractor type work. We don't have a stucco contractor in our area. He's got a stucco job going on at Banner Bank, so that he's going to be in town for that. We have a completion date of August 31st to wrap the project up. So obviously it's really awkward. This isn't really a protocol I'm used to doing, but we're here basically to plead and beg and ask for the council or the renewal agency to reconsider your decision, like in this last month, to let the permit expire. So I get that. It has been going on for a while, but I just, we've had some timing things that have occurred since it started. When it was approved in August, and we need to get a building permit. These projects, I used to sit on the design review board in 1992 to 1998. I was in on it when it was all about awnings, and that 6-month thing worked out great. There were 2 or 3 contractors in town who built awnings. You could get pricing, you could get colors. The applicants would come to us, And we would review the colors, review the design of it, and away we go, and the thing would be up in a month and a half. But what's part of this program now, and what is qualified for funding is much broader. I mean, we have mechanical upgrades that are qualified, electrical, structural. We have accessibility, elevators, all those things that we see in typical construction projects, and we can't get anything done in 6 months. I mean, we're lucky to get projects that have the amount of subs that are involved with this one, and others, we're lucky to get projects done in a year. And so that's neither here nor there. I mean, we should have said, hey, we need more than 6 months when it was approved, but we didn't ask that. We just were tickled that we actually got funding so that they could move along with their project. And then you know, things change, you know, owners change their mind, we change our mind, and there was a design change that basically delayed it about 9 months, and that design change Roger alluded to had to do with, we had kind of a cool overhead door thing that would let the air in, and, you know, like we were in downtown Eugene when it's 80 degrees outside. And so we went back to windows. We obviously have to come back here to get approval for that, to make sure we're not disqualifying on the funding. And that was approved back a year ago today. And so then the pricing, it's a $250,000 project. They need to make sure the contract has an up-to-date contract on the price. Those get worked out, and that gets executed, and then they order the windows. The windows are about a 5-month lead time, which is what we've been dealing with since, you know, the whole supply chain thing has been an issue for 2 or 3 years now, at least. You know, we got a project that's going to be complete, and we don't have the switchgear for the electrical, so because of the delay. So we have those issues that we're dealing with, but again, that's how this has gone. I'm up here to hopefully answer any other questions. The contractor can ask some questions, but we sincerely hope that you would reconsider, and we're poised to get it done. The contractor, while he has a contract, he's not interested in doing work for the owner when the owner needs to get funding squared away. You know, he's not going to do that. So hopefully you all might possibly reconsider, and we can get it done this summer. So I didn't mention the weather. I've lived in the area for a long, long time. I don't remember ever having a winter and early spring that has lasted as long as this has. And they're open 7 days a week, I believe. 7 days? 6 days a week. So we can't tear open, we can't remove windows and have plywood and visqueen up for a space that needs to be operational. And so, you know, a lot of times we do that, we wait till materials show up before we start ripping into things. So it's just a legit, real construction project that just takes time. And we should have said, hey, 6 months isn't going to work. A long time ago, we didn't do it. So,
Joe, if this council reconsiders, will you give us assurances that this project, based on everything you just said, that this project would be complete in 6 months?
What's August 31st from today? Is that less than 6 months?
That's 3 months.
June? Okay, yes. Yeah, and Tom could come up and speak to that as well. I mean, he's the guy that's swinging the hammer.
So some of the confusion.
Yeah.
Some of the confusion is it's been 19 months, not 6 months. So, you know, August 3rd of 2021, this was applied for. And they weren't just given 50%, they were given 75%, which is unheard of, and there's been no one else given 75%. So then they came back because they changed their mind in the design, which is understandable. You know, they want to do something differently. Like you said, we all do that. So then that was on May 22, right? Yeah. And then October came and they were notified. And the thing is, if somebody would have said to us, we want an extension, I don't think that would have been a problem.
Yeah.
But holding up 19 months of $138,000 that can be utilized in other projects, you need to understand that was what somewhat problematic for us because we have others want grants. We're behind on our parking lots, funding that we're scrambling for to do. So you understand that some of the frustration that this could have been used somewhere else, and they could have reapplied, and we could use another budgetary year to give them this money. That's, yeah, and I understand your frustration, but you need to understand, I think, ours
I
also.
totally understand
Right.
where you're sitting at on
Right.
that side of the
So,
counter.
you know, I mean, I hope
I
we can
get
make this
it.
work. And then we have emails from, they're saying that it's HG and Tom Gajewski's fault for not getting the grant application and allowing the permit and lapse. It's your fault and Tom's fault. We have these emails here.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then I'd like to make it clear again, HG and Tom Gajewski Construction are representing us, and Andy, the project mayor, should have been keeping us in the loop. Delays, issues, and construction plans, permits, grant are not our fault. We employ them to do that for us.
Yeah.
So this, and then this created more of a problem and confusion in, I think, some of our parts. So
Yeah.
I think needs to be understanding on
Yeah.
all sides here.
And,
So,
yeah, in a perfect world, construction jobs,
Sure.
sometimes they go smooth,
Well,
and
and-
sometimes they don't. Emails get lost. I mean, it's happened to me. Yeah, so I think we can all kind of relate to that. I have a hard time, I'll get an email, and a week will go by sometimes, or 3 days will go by, and I can't find the email. So, you know, had we gotten a written letter on a piece of paper in an envelope, maybe we would have responded a little bit better, but it's hard to know, Mr. Mayor. I mean, we're just trying to get the job done, and just because there's no activity doesn't mean that the project isn't moving forward, whether
No.
materials are being ordered or what have you. So, are you counting 19 months from when it was first approved in August? Because we had to start
Yes.
over in May,
Yep,
because
no.
we had to come back here and get approval.
Right.
And if
But-
we didn't get approval, then, you know, we wouldn't have moved forward. So
No,
it's.
you're right, 19 months from August 3rd.
Right.
And the plans were changed.
Yeah.
And so that changed the timeframe on it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in somewhat of a hindsight, you know, that was a reconsideration of a project. And most times, people would have had to reapply because it was a different plan. So that wasn't done. And so,
And if we have to reapply,
No,
we'd be back here with the same exact project.
sure,
No change. Tom would be hanging on to his windows
right.
and keeping our fingers crossed that the project might occur. But right now, again, May 9th was what Tom told me earlier today, a mobilization date, and August 31 is a completion date.
I think, Mr. Mayor, I think we're just trying to create a clear picture, right?
Yeah.
Of what the council was presented. And then we had the owner's representative here at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And to Mayor Benetti's point, those funds, right, could be used elsewhere. And it's a fight right now for, there's more demand for
Yeah.
those grant dollars. And we're huge fans of Restaurant-O. I think you both know that. I'm concerned, the precedent, quite honestly, it sets, because we gave 75%, which is the highest amount we've given. And I recognize where you're coming from, but what I also don't want, what I'm uncomfortable with is one counselor is saying, yep, I'm going to give that same amount, and then I've set a precedent for anyone else to do what transpired here. I do appreciate your comments, though, supply chain issues, length of how long it really takes to get a job done these days. So I'm appreciative of that, and I think that's something that the council can talk about.
I might remind you all what the project is. There's 75 feet of storefront downtown Coos Bay heading south, and 75 feet of storefront heading north downtown Coos Bay. It's kind of a keystone flagship kind of project. That's
why we
it's
contributed
gonna look
75%.
it's going to look terrific on, yeah, and the 75%, I think that was a discussion with the city on, so that I don't think anybody just invented that. That was a suggestion. So, yeah, that's what was applied for, and that was approved. So, yeah, I hope you consider it. Roger Craddock's done a great job of trying to steer us to come back here tonight and help us with this. So really appreciate all your effort, and appreciate all the things you guys do. You do a great job with your council meetings. Appreciate it.
Are there any other questions from agency members, either online or?
I have another question.
I'd like to approach the stands.
Sure.
Very sorry I wasn't here at that meeting. I'm tanned right now. I was in the Caribbean. My mother has vascular dementia, so I was over there looking after her. Rika was here. She could have attended that meeting, but obviously there was a miscommunication and we didn't know about it. The email in October, I get like 100 emails like you all do every day. We overlooked it and we shouldn't have overlooked it, and I apologise. And I really apologise for not being there. I just wanted to come up and let you know. If there's any questions anyone would like to ask me, I did see the video from the meeting. I could have joined in from Zoom if I knew about it, but Enrica could have been here in person, but we didn't. I just want to let you guys know that.
Thank you.
So the other thing also I wanted to clarify is that the change in design wasn't a whimsical decision. It wasn't a wishy-washy, oh, I changed my mind, I'm a girl, I'm going to make it pink. It was really just the availability of supplies, and initially we were trying to make renovations based on COVID because we also still didn't know at that time whether COVID was still going to be an issue where we would be shut down again for 5 months unless we had outdoor seating. So those were a lot of the things that we had to consider, and based on availability of supplies, and also based on what originally we really wanted for the facade for the restaurant, then, you know, we had to make that big decision of making changes. It wasn't an impulsive decision by any means. But also, as Joe Slack had mentioned, Restaurant O, fortunately, as it had been Benetti, sits, you know, as it could be the crown jewel of downtown Coos Bay with both north and south sides of 101. And I think the design that we've have planned for this facade could really benefit beautifying downtown Coos Bay. So it's not just we're trying to get this grant reapproved just for the benefit of Restaurant O, but hopefully it'll ultimately benefit Coos Bay itself. So we hope that you consider this generous grant that was previously approved.
Before I open it up for more questions or discussion, I do want to say that there is a reason that it is a cliche, if you build it, they will come. I think this council are true believers in what urban renewal does in our community. Are there any other, Rob, you look like you have.
Roger, so unless I'm remembering incorrectly, I don't believe in the last 19 months that there's been any improvement program grants that were denied or not considered because these funds were encumbered. Is that correct?
I believe you're correct.
I'll just say, you know, the Boys and Girls Club received a very large urban renewal grant for the dance school downtown, and shortly after we got awarded that, COVID hit, and we also had several delays. But I write several grants every year, so I'm very familiar with grant agreements and deadlines, but I don't think the average business owner is, and I really want to see this project go through because I think it's a great project.
Drew, do you have anything? Carmen or Sarah?
Yeah, I'll chime in. I also want to see this project move forward. It's definitely unfortunate that the timeline and the requirements have had some issues. And I, like Lucinda, am a little bit, worried about the precedent that we're setting here tonight. That being said, I think it's a worthy cause for urban renewal dollars to be used on. It is a very keystone kind of location for downtown urban renewal. I am definitely open to the discussion of what funding amounts we are comfortable with. But I am in favor of making sure that this project does move forward. However we can help, that I think should be up to us as a body.
And along those lines, if this is approved, the funding that we would have available for grants, anything there that is pending that would not be eligible at that stage?
No, we anticipate, we provided you a spreadsheet attached to the agenda We anticipate an additional 2 grant requests for possibly this budget season, Anderson Plaza and High Road Real Estate. If all are awarded at the amounts currently anticipated, that would leave the agency with $1,200 in that line item for the remainder of this budget year.
This budget year ends June 30th, is that correct?
You are correct.
You say $1,200?
$1,234.14.
Okay.
Exact. But I remember when I became a city councilor, thus being on the agency, we didn't always have full use of those funds, and we didn't have the type of money that we put into this particular fund that we do today. And I think that I would rather use it than carry it over.
I agree. I want to support this project. Again, for me, it's about precedent and who comes after this. I'm not comfortable funding it at the 75% level. I would be more comfortable funding it at the 50 to 60% level, 100K, instead of the 138K. I think there are ramifications for people or for businesses, quite honestly, who didn't do their due diligence. Quite honestly, we didn't get a response back. I understand, I get it, 100 emails, I totally get that.
That was fighting a triple pandemic.
I understand that as well, but again, it's more about precedent for me, right? It's not about you, it's about who comes after you. And so in my mind, I would be comfortable funding it at the 60% level because I believe in the project, which would be closer to the 100K versus 138K.
I need my memory jogged. It's been 7 years, and I can't recall a time we restarted a facade grant request. Actually, I can't remember one ever, but definitely not after this long. Am I forgetting one?
No, I don't recall one being restarted. I know that several have been extended, and there's currently some extensions going on right now. But I would also say there's been some that have been approved that never went anywhere.
Yeah.
Didn't
And the new application season for this would be July 1 for the next budget year, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Basically where I was going was I'm not inclined to renew it for the concern of our precedents as well. I mean, there is no precedence to do it right now, and I would rather there not be one.
Lucinda, you weren't suggesting that they reapply. You're talking
No,
about...
I'm suggesting we award, but we award at 60% instead of 75%. So I believe in the project. I understand the challenges, right? And I apologize if I didn't communicate that clearly.
We haven't heard from agency member Sarah Stevens. Did you have any comment?
Yeah, I really love Restaurant O and the Yarn Shop, and I think that they are a gem in our community, and I want to see them be successful. I, too, am also concerned about precedent, and I really like the solution that Councilor DeNovo is putting forth.
Is that a motion?
Well, did Carmen already weigh in? Oh, he did, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I get the precedent thing, and someone who's a building owner downtown is intimate about this program. We're doing the best we can to get it done in time as well, but it's a double-edged sword. You're worried about setting a precedent. If you set a precedent by changing the dollar amount, I'm just thinking to myself, well, okay, so what if the city's going to change the dollar amount on another project? So it makes me a little bit, it's a slippery slope, and so,
well, the city actually is considering
what was approved back then?
This.
What's that?
So remember, the city tonight is considering, or the agency, to reconsider this, right? So,
right.
And quite honestly, I get to your point, I understand what you're saying, but also we're trying to streamline the process to give them some monies, is my
Yeah, well, that's my only concern.
On that subject of precedence, it's not the direction you want me to go with it, but I would agree on that that's why I'm just a flat no, is because I'd rather not mess with it. It's one or the other for me.
I just feel like we have had such an unusual set of circumstances over the last 3 years, 2 years. I understand what the agency members are saying on both sides of this, but I also, this sounds like the perfect storm. So at this point, unless there are any other comments, I would entertain a motion. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move that we not renew it.
Do I have a second?
If I say second, I'm only doing it to entertain it. It doesn't mean I support it. Okay. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for purposes of discussion and a vote. Is there any discussion?
Nate, I don't agree with the thought that we are setting precedent here, because as an agency, it's our discretion how to spend these funds. Is that correct?
It always is your discretion, one way or the other. And, I understand where Council Canova's coming from. I mean, if you do this now, is there going to be somebody else coming in? I mean, the reality is I don't think we've ever faced this before, and how long we had this program on it. So, actual precedent, no. But I understand what you were talking about.
I'm sorry, Nate, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
embedded in my button.
Oh,
What I was saying was, it's not actual precedent. Precedent would be like in a court case where you're basically bound to follow that decision. The Urban Renewal Agency has broad discretion in terms of what they approve and how much they approve. And but at the same time, I understand where Councilor DeNova is coming from. The idea that if we do this now, then next time someone's going to come in. My point also was that we've never faced this before, and we've had this program for, 20 years? Something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I realize it's not a legal precedent, but it's more of a matter of our word, or a code of conduct that we have within the agency on how we deal with delinquent permits or grant applications and awarded grants. It's more of what kind of pattern people can expect. And this particular grant at 75%, I don't remember how many we've done at 75%. Is this the only one, Roger?
To my knowledge, yes.
What about the Dolphin Theater? Didn't they get funded at 100%?
Roger, is your mic on?
To your question, the Dolphin Theater was an urban renewal project that the city undertook, and they did do the facade at 100%, and they did do a different project for $100,000 to renovate the bathrooms on a blighted building.
So related to precedents, it's ubiquitous in our society, you can't avoid it, but my thought isn't so much of a legal precedence as it is someone could later argue disparate treatment.
and I would argue that precedence changes with the changing of the personnel that sit at the council table. So,
Yeah, it's a good point too.
Absolutely. I guess just for me, I tend to agree with Lucinda that there are ramifications for delinquency in following the rules, regulations, and expectations of the grant application requirements. And so for me, I really appreciate what they're trying to do here, and I want to support it, but I feel like there has to be some kind of limit on how we can continue to support something as we've been strung along for much longer than was anticipated.
Nate, did you?
Oh, I was just going to say that, when you're looking at cases in the courts, you know, what do? You distinguish the cases factually. You know, every case is a little bit different, and certainly if someone else were to come in and request an extension similar like this, I'm sure there'd be factual differences you could distinguish it from. But having said that, I think you understand where I'm coming from.
All right, do we have any further discussion? Okay, the motion on the table is to not fund this project. It has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Or nay,
No.
sorry.
Okay, the motion does not carry. Do we want to entertain another motion?
I'll make a motion to fund this project in the amount of $100K. I'm not going to do the percentage, I apologize, with the expectation that this project is complete within 6 months.
Second.
Would that come with if it's not done in 6 months, we don't renew it?
No, I feel like we've been given the contractor's word and the architect's word that it would be done within 6 months.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion is to fund this project at $100,000.
Versus the 138.
And we have a second. I would just ask, does that change the outcome of whether this project will move forward?
Well, realistically.
Can you approach on, so that they can hear online as well, sorry?
I mean, obviously, I think anyone would understand that, you know, 38,000 is not chump change, especially for a restaurant trying to recover after COVID. So I'm not going to lie that that's not going to be, oh yeah, sure, we'll handle that. You know, the project in itself, you know, with the understanding that we have to come up with 190,000 to begin with before we can get any monies back, is already huge overall. I think for anyone, even if you are getting the 70% back, that was already a huge commitment for us. And I understand the generosity of the 75%, and I understand that there were some faults on our side. That's why we're in this situation to begin with. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm just hoping that you'd also understand that, you know, coming down also on the percentage that's going to be granted to us. I mean, I really do need to sit down and see if that's a realistic project for us to pursue with a 38,000 decrease in what we're going to get back. You know, everything has come, you know, I mean, I think you all understand, everything has gone up since COVID. The cost of labor, the cost of food, everything is just crazy right now. So to have to reconsider 38,000 for us to foot the bill after the grant, it's huge. I'm not going to lie. So,
Okay, thank you.
and obviously we'll take whatever decision the council makes.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion by the agency?
I just want to say that I will be voting nay on this, just because I feel like the project should be funded fully and not because I don't think it should be funded.
Well, even if we did the 100,000, as Lucinda stated, that's still more than 50% that we normally are given. And I understand the 75%, and I know there's some issues on that, but I think we need to also keep that in mind.
With that said,
We can move forward with the question.
I don't
Is
want
there
to
a
move
motion and a
forward.
second, or
There is
what?
I know. I would like to withdraw my motion.
Okay.
I want to withdraw it.
So are we withdrawing the second as well? Who seconded?
I think Carmen?
Carmen, are you withdrawing your second? Oh, Sarah.
Oh, Sarah, okay.
I'm curious to hear from Councilor DeNovo why you'd like to rescind.
I'm going to try to be eloquent. I recognize your challenges. And I recognize also we've had conversations about what precedent looks like. We have the money. I think to Councilor Kilmer's point, this money is intended for projects like this. And I hope I don't regret this decision, but I will change my motion to funding it at the original amount of 75%.
Do we need to
Sarah,
have,
Sarah needs to withdraw her second.
we have to
Oh.
have a withdrawal of the second to move forward on any other motion?
I will withdraw to comply. However, I will have to vote no with the full award, as I think it's going to bite us later. I support the project. I hear everything that everyone said and the complications. This actually originally was brought to us July 27th of 2021. It's been a significant amount of time, and I don't agree with the 75% award moving forward either.
I guess where I'm coming from, Sarah, is construction costs, supply chain issues. There is a pandemic, yes. And honestly, will we be in this situation again? I sure hope not. And that's a compelling of enough reason for me, even though there is fault upon the owners and the owner's representative. I think those are compelling enough reasons to, that's really why I pulled my motion, and to consider funding it at the 75%, which was originally requested.
Okay, so we have a withdrawal of the motion and a withdrawal of the second. And I was going to say something, but it must not have been important because I completely forgot what that was. So do we have another motion?
I'll make a motion to reapprove the previously approved improvement grant for 260 and 265 South Broadway Avenue.
Do we have a second? I will second then. Do we have any discussion?
I guess I'll chime in. I am worried that if we don't award close to the full amount, if not the full amount, that the project won't go forward, which is unfortunate because I really do want to see that building renovated. It is, like I said, kind of a keystone location for our downtown. So selfishly, as a resident of downtown, I would love to see more care, more energy, more love put into all of our buildings downtown. And so if we have the ability, it does make sense. I am worried about the precedent. I am worried about allowing things to go this far without proper communication between the agency and the parties awarded the grant. That pains me just a little bit because it doesn't feel fair, especially with it being such a large amount. However, I think that in some ways approving this really does show how driven this agency is to help people make improvements to their buildings, to beautify the downtown for the benefit of all businesses and our community. So I will probably be in support.
I need a quick memory assist again. That's how I like to frame those. How many other facade grants have we awarded since 2020?
Whew.
I'm not sure I have that available.
Or in the last year? I don't remember what the number is offhand. I would think it's over 10. Basically, I'm getting
is over
at that
10.
there were,
It is over 10.
yeah, other ones that we didn't run into this with during the same time frame.
Yeah,
I
there's,
would just make the point that if we're worried about precedents, then we need to evaluate when we look at percentages that we are awarding in the first place. We would not be in this situation at this point today.
But we have. I mean, that's what we've done in the past, and we made an exception here. This is an exception we've made with nobody else. And in my opinion, I'm disappointed that it wasn't handled differently, for whatever the reason may be. And that's why we're here. Remember, we turned this project down last vote. And it had nothing to do whether you were here or not, Rika and Owen. It had nothing to do with that. If you were here, it might have made a difference in reconsidering a different amount or whatever. But the point being is that we do make percentages all the time. In fact, if you look at this information Roger gave us, a lot of these started out with 25,000 being the max. And we've really surpassed that. And I think it's the right thing to do, don't get me wrong. But we haven't gone over 50%. And I've asked this council, let's change that percentage. I've asked it multiple times, and this agency, has not done so. So, with a little urging, we got 75%. But I'm still concerned that we are setting a precedent, that we're and if we want to change it, then let's change it. Let's change it now to 75%. Let's do it now before we take that vote. Let's go within some parameters, if that's what we want to do. That's what I say. So if we want to change it to 75%, and then I'll go ahead and support this. If we don't, then I'm going to stick with the 50%, or in this case, 100,000, which is close. Because if they came back and made another an application, Rika stated it'd be 190. So that's more than the 178 that they had talked about previously. So their prices had gone up. So if you want to even do that. So that's my take on this. I do think we're setting a precedent. I think it's a great project. I think it's a great position to be. 101, believe me, I think it's a keystone place. No doubt about it. But I think we have people to answer to, and I would have difficulty in doing that under these circumstances.
I really like that solution, Mayor, because I think that we might actually see more applications if it's known that we would fund at the 75% level, which would get us around this issue that we have here. So I think that that's a great solution.
So do I need to amend my motion?
We have a motion on the table for this particular project. I think that the matter that that was just brought up needs to be handled with a different motion
Well, you've got to
at a
have
different
motion
time.
that's
We've got to take care of this motion that's on the table.
And I also think that changing the percentage for this program needs to be a different discussion. This project had already been approved at 75%, so I don't know why we would change that now.
But this project's already been declined. I mean, we had one that we did not, I didn't vote for it, but it went down. It was 4-3 to not fund this. And now it's being brought back for reconsideration. So there's a lot of facets in here. I understand all those, but we funded the original project 75%. You got to kind of remember that this is almost a reconsideration. So it's, a different parameter. So I understand what you're saying, Rob, but I mean, there's all these different things that are going on. So anyway, I'm going not to speak about this anymore.
This is also two properties.
Yeah, but it still ends up being the same. I mean, they split it up between the two properties, which makes a lot of sense because, in fact, that's one of the ways I think they were able to get to more funding, which is great, than the 25,000 that was originally there.
Do we suppose percentages might be good for committee rules that we have after this?
I don't know. All I say, I'm talking about, I try to get this agency to go back to 75%. In fact, I think 100% at some point should be thought about. But we never got there. We stuck at 50. So anyway, I'm sorry, guys. I just got to stick that in there because that happened more than once.
Is there any further discussion, or do we have a motion to call for the question?
Call for the question.
what is the motion one more time?
To fund it at the original amount of 138, which is 75%, which isn't really 75% anymore because the project's changed in cost, but that's immaterial.
All right, where are we at? Do we have to
Call
do
for
the
the
motion
question.
on the call for the question, or do we just?
No, you've already done it. Call.
So wait,
Okay.
one more question.
Oh, Carmen got something.
Oh,
One more question. So are we approving it for 75% or 138,000? It sounds like that could be changed.
We are approving the motion for,
It was 75%.
My motion was to reapprove the grant, which was for $138,265.86.
and that was seconded.
Right, and that's 75% of the amount that they had applied for, which was 178 or something like that.
On the original
Right, application.
application.
Yeah.
It's
Okay. So
actually
the
less
original
than that
amount.
now, because the
Right.
project costs more, but the application still states their portion is 178,000, this portion,
Or whatever it may be, but yes, you're right.
is that
Yeah, it
correct?
still encompasses whatever the scope of the application was. So if the project exceeds whatever, it's not going to be 75% of the actual dollar spent. It's going to be the 138 agreed upon amount, correct?
Correct. His motion states the amount of, say it again, Rob,
$138,265.86. Yeah.
and that is the max amount that was approved by the agency
Correct.
in 2021.
Well, yeah, and then it just was, design was changed in 22, and then here we are now.
Okay, do we want to do a hand vote on this?
I think that's probably appropriate. You may have some yeses and nos, so.
So all those, how are we going to do that on?
Well, they'll have to say yea or nay.
Just do a roll call.
Yeah, okay,
Can we
roll
do
call.
a roll call?
Sure.
All those in favor?
No, I think
No,
you're
wait.
calling each one individually.
Call individually, yes, sorry.
You want to do that?
Sure.
Counselor DeNovo,
Aye.
Counselor Farmer,
Nick?
Counselor Kilmer,
Aye.
Counselor Matthews,
Aye.
Counselor Miles,
Aye.
Counselor Stevens,
Nay.
and Mayor Benetti.
No.
So the motion passes 4 votes in favor to 3 votes against.
Yep.
So the application is funded.
Yep.
Sorry to torture you with all this.
Yeah, it really was torture.
I just want to give my appreciation to the council for considering this, and I understand all the points that were made, but we are very grateful. Thank you.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is adopting agency board rules.
All right.
I'm gonna take
Nicole,
that.
are you taking that?
Yeah. So essentially what part of this process that came up identified that we didn't have a way in rules for you to be able to bring back things to the agency. We were kind of piggybacking on what city council rules are without a formal rules policy for the agency. So what staff's done has pulled together a agency rules for this board to work under. We've modeled those after city council rules and also looked to some other urban renewal agencies throughout the state. That's attached to the staff report, along with a resolution that would allow you guys to adopt these rules if you believe that these meet the needs of the agency.
Okay, do we have any questions for Nicole on that? I did find an error on 12.7, which states council instead of the agency. Precedence of motions.
Good catch.
Any other discussion or questions?
Well, I think we should be appreciative of this project that led us to these council rules in the first place, or the agency rules in the first place. So that would be my only comment for tonight on this matter.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we need a motion. And that motion should contain the,
Approve
Approve the
the draft agency rules as amended by replacing the word council with agency.
So moved.
And I would also suggest it needs to stay, adopt resolution number 2302.
Two, yes. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. So the motion is to approve Resolution 23-02, adopting the agency board rules with the amended correction on council. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? The motion carries. I was not voting no.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Carmen did.
Okay, there we go.
That was a unanimous vote. I said no when I was too late. Okay, so, all right, so that is the last item before the agency. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting. I think it was more.